I've heard really good things.
Yeah, so I was trying to transfer. I'm pretty much wanted to kind of go to like
No, I didn't. I wish I had. To appreciate it, even though
the project one. I got it was good. So I was gonna do it wrong. But when I called it, it won't let me because it's up to date at that point. So it won't let me revert with a full here. So I reassigned the leadership, ownership to Allie. You're right. We're all doing this project.
the shaved samurai. Is that what it's called? No, it's short. It's called I call it the Natalie Dormer.
That's what you call it.
I call it the Natalie Dormer.
Oh yeah, she does do that.
In Hunger Games, which I haven't even seen really. I've just seen like clips of it, but she has that cut on the side.
So,
like, I bet that would be cooler in the summer.
She looks better
She's naked. I mean, I'll just put that out.
I mean, I guess that does have a part of that.
Just keep it real.
Why? It's a little too real for me. Nah, because I remember the first someone told me, I was like,
You will watch the first episode, and you will like it.
And I watched it, and they were
Reggie, what happened?
It was like Black
I was pretty much all my stories on a local hard drive, right? On an external. And the only one that I don't have, that's the one that I do. Because I'm very one. So, I mean, we still have it on the So I tried to clone it.
Yeah.
But when I cloned it, I can't revert it because I'm up to date.
Yeah.
So I reassigned the ownership to
All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started for today's class. So today we'll start week 11. I hope everybody saw the quick summary that I posted. We're going to be looking at some advanced JavaScript concepts. All right. Before we begin this week, a couple of things I want to clarify. The concepts are JavaScript, but I'm going to be writing code using Node.js. Why? Because it's the same thing, right? It kind of saves us time from creating the HTML and going through the whole thing and looking at our browser console and everything. It's much simpler over here, okay? But today you won't see anything I would say related to Node.js, right? The same code that I show you today, you can run it in your front-end JavaScript, all right? So today's class is more focused on some of the advanced JavaScript concepts, okay? But still, we are going to write that code. I'm going to run that code using Node.js, right? Everybody clear on that? So don't have the confusion. Yes?
You said Node.js is easier.
I was saying to run the code that I'm going to write is easier because if I'm doing this in HTML, I have to create an HTML file, then I have to create my JavaScript file, then link them, worry about jQuery or something. This is much simpler. I can just write the JavaScript file and run the code. But every piece of code that I show you is translatable to your front-end code. Okay? All right. So today, I was talking to some of the people I mentioned. I said Blair was saying he's pumped up for today's class. I was saying that today's class is my least favorite. It's not about it's boring or anything. It's just a concept. I feel like JavaScript tries to be something that it's not. We have come to realize JavaScript is like the Wild West language. But in the recent version, JavaScript is trying to include some of the features that JavaScript thinks that will attract people from other languages because they have those features. But underlying, it's just faking all that stuff. Underlying is just a function, basically. If you look at their code, that's what JavaScript is. But the concept is really important. And why is the concept is important is because it's the same concept across different other languages. It's the same across in Java, it's same in C++, same in C sharp, all right? And the other reason is that you guys are not going to stop at JavaScript, right? When you are working somewhere, you're going to come across different languages, you're going to learn something else, right? If you're learning Java, C sharp, C++, or anything else, you will come across this concept. It'll be easier to understand at that point versus if you have never heard of it, right? But again, JavaScript doesn't do it well, but still the concept is there, so it's better to understand the concept versus when you come across something else and you're like, oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, because in other languages, this concept is really popular and they do it really well, and that's like the foundation of those languages. Okay, what else? Okay, and the concepts today are in the newer version of JavaScript. What do I mean by new version? You must have heard ES6 or not. That's the newer version of JavaScript that's embedded in your browsers. So some of these concepts they exist in ES6, which is actually the fifth version of JavaScript, but they call it 6 for some reason. Okay, so there's a whole class dedicated to some of the features. Yeah, some of the features of ES6. But these features that we are going to see today is included in the newer version. Okay, so before I go on to the my least favorite concept in ES6, there's one more. It's not part of the lecture. You will probably learn it later, but I want to. It's easy to understand and really good to use right now. So I'm going to quickly give you an introduction for that, and then we'll jump on to our regular exercises. Okay. So this has to do with scope. Again, don't get scared. It's not that scope that we learned. It's similar, but it's not exactly. It's kind of simplified version. Okay, so when we talked about scope in our previous class, you remember what I said? JavaScript is lexical scope, right? It's not block scope, right? Versus block scope. So block scope meant that, if you have curly brackets like in other languages, anything that you declare within these curly brackets kind of remains over here. But JavaScript is a little bit weird. If you have curly brackets, it doesn't care. It just makes it a global variable. For example, if I have this, let me make it a little bit bigger so that everybody can see this. If I have this statement, if true var global var is equal to right, if I do console log this variable that I declared inside my if statement, it still is valid and it runs. Okay, it should output something. So let me go ahead and run this. Okay. Everybody good on this? The code that I wrote? It's just an if statement, if true, because I just wanted to make sure it always works. So if I declare a variable inside my if statement, it is accessible outside or anywhere else, right? That's the global variable concept. Now with the new version of JavaScript, I don't know why they waited so long for this. They came out with something called block scope. What they came out with was that, in other languages, if you declare a variable inside these curly bracket, it kind of remains inside. It's not accessible outside. In JavaScript, the only way this is true is when you declare a function, right? Everybody remember that? If you declare a function and you have this variable inside your functions, it's not accessible outside, right? But this is true for if, for loops, or anything, okay? So in the new version, they came out with this keyword called let. Let is same as declaring this variable, this keyword var. The only thing is it is block scoped. What it means is that if I create a variable using the let keyword, it won't be accessible outside. Okay, So I have declared a variable using the let keyword instead of var. So if I try to console log this variable, it's going to give me an error. Okay, and the error is basically saying that local var is not defined, which means that this variable that I declared using the keyword let is not accessible other than within these curly brackets. And that's how most of the other languages that I work with that's how they do it. What we call them is, this is the block scope. Okay, so JavaScript waited like 5 versions before they came out and they realized that we need to fix this. So in the newer version that we are learning, and you should be able to run this code in your front end JavaScript, it will still work. Okay, so I'm going to get in the practice of using the let keyword, because that's what I'm kind of used to. That if I have a if statement and I'm declaring a variable inside my if statement, by intention is that this variable shouldn't be accessible outside. That's how programmers work. That's how other languages that I have worked with work. So I'm kind of more used to this kind of concept. Okay. Same thing with for loops. If you have a for loop, you declare the for loop inside your let. You declare your let variable inside your for loop. It won't be accessible outside. Okay. Questions?
It's just, is it better? I just don't understand why you wouldn't want global.
Well, why I wouldn't want global? Because if I'm declaring this inside, my intention is this variable should exist within this code and then should disappear.
So you never follow.
Yeah, I don't want. If I wanted global, what would I do? I would have to. I should show my intentions clearly, and I should declare it on the top. Right? That's how global variables work. If I'm declaring it inside my scope, my intention is that it shouldn't be accessible outside. Yeah, if it is a global variable, yeah, then put it on the top. Okay.
Why would you want to do that though?
What's
What's the point?
the point of what?
What's the point? Why would you want to do that?
Do what?
Just have it within that bracket only.
Right. So what's the point? How about the for? Do you remember the for loop? What happens if I have var I is equal to 0, I is less than, let's say, 10? So when I exit out of this for loop, what's the value of I? It's going to be 10, right? Because it keeps updating, and this variable I is accessible outside. Do I need I outside? No, I don't need it. My intention for using this variable is it should exist within this and then it should end it. So I can reuse this variable somewhere else, right? So that's one problem. So if I do this with let, you will see that this is the right way to do it. That my I exists over here, ends over here. Then if I have another for loop, I can reuse the same letter and it won't change anything. Okay. So that's why you have those local variable scope. I'll just keep it up. What is it?
So,
Mhm.
You said if you want global variable, then as we you declared outside.
Yeah.
However, so the first one is global variable, right?
Right.
So, and that's for the purpose, and then you have a local variable. So why didn't you declare it outside though?
No. So that's why I'm trying to show you the difference. That the problem is if you create a var variable inside, it is accessible everywhere.
Right. So why
Right.
didn't you declare it outside if you wanted to have it?
So
just
because
an
it doesn't
example?
matter.
Oh.
Yeah, this is just an example. But even if I declare it outside, it doesn't matter. It's still accessible outside. Yep. Right. The name suggests that this variable should be local, but since I use the var keyword, it's accessible everywhere. Okay. So you will see me using let because that's more preferable. It's more scope. That's more block scope. So I'll start using let. And that's again is part of the newer version of JavaScript, which is called ES6. All right. Yes.
Kind of goes hand in hand with constant, right?
What is it?
Kind of like is the opposite of constant.
Opposite of constant. All right. Right.
They kind of like go
Good.
hand in hand.
Right. Good question. The second one that I was going to introduce is the const. But before I get there, any questions on the let? All right. Makes sense. Okay. This is a really popular JavaScript question. They will ask you what is the difference between var and let. All right, always remember that they are going to ask you. This is the most asked question I have ever seen. What's the difference between var and let? Okay. All right. The second one that I want to show you guys is const. So const stands for constant, and any variable that you declare using const is not, you cannot modify that. Okay. So for example, let's say const variable. I'm going to call this. No, constant. Const stands for constant. I cannot be modified. Okay, so this thing, any variable that you declare using the const keyword, it can only have a value initially, and then you can never change it. Okay, so let me go ahead and clean this up a little bit. This was in error, so I cannot access this. Let's remove this. You can never change it. Right. And we are getting there. Have some patience. All right. All right. Yeah. I'll show you. Yeah. So this is working, and you guys are too fast. I can't even type that fast. So right now it's working. I'm able to console log it. Now let's see what happens when I try to modify it. And how do I modify? I just reassign a different value to it, right? Reassigning. Did I spell that right? Assigning a new value.
I like this mess because I did that one time, and then every time I would open it, even if I changed it in the code.
Okay, so now I'm trying to log this value, and this is going to give me an error. And why is it giving me an error? Again, the same thing. Any variable that I declare using const can only be used once and one only. I cannot reassign, I cannot change the value for it. It will have this value forever. Now this is also true in other languages, and that's why they kind of came up with this in JavaScript also. What is the use case? We have been using var for everything, but a lot of the time there are some variables that you never change in your code, right? For example, we did a RPS game or something, and we were assigning some hard-coded values that was going to be true throughout the whole program, right? So instead of using the var keyword, just use a const, and then this kind of makes us make less stupid mistakes. For example, if you're working on a team of 5 and somebody tries to change this value, and you know for sure this should never change, right? Somebody tries to do it, what will happen? You'll get an error, right? Yes.
I think Nick was saying another day that because I was asking him if people still use var, and he said yes, they do.
Yes.
So people use both. They just change
Right.
depending on what they're
Again,
doing.
it depends. If you are going for compatibility, I said both of these are newer version JavaScript, which is ES6, which is almost everywhere in your browser. But your site will run into issues if somebody opens in a different version,
Okay.
right? Again, var is more popular still because people are catching up onto it, but programmers who are used to JavaScript, they still use the var keyword. If you're not worried about global scope, global variable, then keep using var. But it's good practice to come in. And as I said, coming from a backend programming language, I'm more used to something like this. So kind of, I'm more comfortable using the let keyword because this is what my intentions are clear that I don't want this to be accessible anywhere outside. So that's why I use the let keyword. But again, both are interchangeable. Let and var will work the same way. The difference is the block scope versus the lexical scope.
Is const global or local?
Again, const follows the same strategy as this one. If I declare it on the top, it will be available over here. If I move this const inside my scope over here, so it won't be accessible. Yeah, it follows the same block scope thing. Okay, let and const. All right. Again, one of the more popular questions in you'll probably be asked that what's the difference between var and let and what's the const keyword does. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our regular exercise now. All right, we'll do a quick refresher and then we will jump onto the new concept that I was talking about. So I'm looking at exercise number 1. It's called raining cats and dogs. Nick has slacked that out. I'll do the coding part. We'll do it together. We'll go through and make sure we remember these concepts. All right. Let's call it raining cats and dogs. Okay, so that's what the exercise is called. Let me copy the README file so that we can see exactly what we want to do. All right. Close this. Okay, so this is an exercise. This is a refresher for objects, JavaScript objects. Okay. What is the exercise? It says make a dogs object with 3 keys. The first key is called raining with a value of true. Second key called noise with a value of woof. And then third key called make noise, which contains a function which console logs the noise to the screen if it is raining dogs. Okay, let's start with the first section. All right. So let me go ahead and create a JS file. Let's call it raining cats and dogs.js. Okay, close this out. All right. Make a dogs object. Okay, everybody remember how to create objects? So instead of var, I'm going to use let. Just get in the habit of it. So let, and they're saying create an object called dogs. Okay, and equal to curly brackets, right? Because I'm trying to create an object. All right, so this is how I create my dogs object, and it should have 3 keys. The first key is called raining. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a key called raining, and the value is going to be true. Okay, everybody good? All right, so let's do the second one. Is called noise with this value. So it looks like it's a string, right? So I'm going to call it noise. Give some space, and then give it a value of. All right, so 2 properties, raining and noise. Let's go on to the third one. Third one is make noise, and it's a function. All right, so first start with that. Make noise, and it's a function, so let's create a function. All right, make noise is a function. I created a function, which is the third property. All right, any questions so far? Everybody good? Hopefully everybody remembers this, right? Good? Okay. Joffrey, remember?
Yeah. No, yeah. I just.
Okay. All right. So the second part, what does it say? What does this function should do? Console log the noise to the screen if it is raining dogs. Okay. So if tells me I need to put a if statement, and if it is raining dog, then it should make noise. So this function, I started with my if statement, if, and then what property am I checking? Raining. Do I do this dot raining or just raining? This, because I'm inside my object, so I'm referring to this, and you see Visual Studio helps you out with this. So if this is true, then what do I need to do? Console log the noise. So console log this dot noise. Okay. Any questions? It's clear what's going on? Okay. So I'll just remove this true if I'm refactoring. Is everybody clear on this part also why I did this? Because this dot training is a boolean, it's always going to return a true or a false, so I can shortcut and just do if this is true then do this, otherwise don't do it. Alright, it's the same as equal to true. Okay. Alright, let's go to the second part. So this part is done. Second one, make a cats object with the 3 keys. Looks like exactly the same thing. First key raining, noise, make noise. Okay, everybody agree? It's the exact same thing, just the value is changing. Okay. So I guess I can just copy paste this whole thing. Okay, and then change this to cats. Raining, this property is fine. Make noise, I need to change this. What is it? Where?
Yes. That's
With the value false. First key called rating.
Um,
Can you change it there, or is it just?
where is it? Did I do this wrong?
No.
No.
That one you said it was fine, but.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Oh.
still on line number 22.
no line 20.
No,
Line
yeah.
20?
You said
Yeah,
that was
that's
fine,
true.
you have to change.
Oh,
it to
so
false.
change this. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
I was like, wait.
All right.
I'm like, that's not right.
What do you get to do?
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, this part. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't see
I
that.
was like, unless you're gonna do an if statement.
Oh, no.
I was like, wait.
Oh, good catch. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying exactly looks the same, and the only change is this one, and I didn't catch this one. All right. Thank you. All right. So raining is false. Noise is good. These both are good now. All right. Let's do the next one. Is now what changes over here? Does anything change over here? No, because the same function is just checking if this is true, then make this noise. Okay. All right. So we now created 2 objects, cats and dogs. Let's go on to the third part. All right. So make the dog bark. How do I make that?
Make noise.
Dogs dot make noise. Okay. So let's go ahead and make sure, where am I?
You still there. Wasn't you?
Okay. Okay, looks good. All right, let's go on to the second. What's the next one? The cat mew. How do I make that happen?
Or cats dot.
Cats dot make noise. Excellent. Good catch. Why? Because cat raining is false. It only works if this is true. So, and how do I make this true? How do I make raining true? Reset the property. Okay. How do I do that? In code. Dot what? Okay, so what's the code going to be?
Cat dot raining is true.
Excellent. Cat dot raining is equal to true. Everybody followed that? Alright, so we are trying to set the property outside the declaration. So declaration has raining as false, but we want to change it to true. So this is the way you can access these properties, right? Now it should have both of these.
That's why you want to keep it true, because you're like 5 steps ahead of us.
Yeah, Laura made me change it to false. I have to write it next down. That was my mistake. All right, everybody good? Questions? Okay, yes. Nothing or undefined. So We declare dogs, we declare cats, and in the function we are using this, right? Is that what you did? Okay. So let me minimize it. So 3 properties. Third one is a function. Within the function, I'm using the properties that exist within this object. So I'm using the this keyword, console log this. So I don't have to do console log this again.
I was doing I was setting it equal to true or false.
Oh, over here?
In the-
Oh, in the if statement. Yeah, okay. You're assigning instead of the comparison. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and see what else. Oh, bonus. Create a function called mass hysteria, which takes in both the cats and dogs object and prints this if both of the reigning keys are equal to true. All right. So what do I do over here? Create a function. All right. So let's go ahead and create a function. And it has to be called mass hysteria. Okay, what are the parameters for this one?
Dogs and cats.
Dogs and cats objects. Okay, so dogs and cats, and then what should happen? What's the what does the body look like?
Both are true, prints that dogs and cats.
Okay. Excellent. So I need an if statement. If dogs dot reigning is true, right? I can do this, and now we know that this will also work. And the second condition is and, right? Both of them should be true. So and cats dot reigning is also true. Then I go ahead and console log something. I'm not going to type the whole thing. I'm going to just copy this. Okay, everybody good? So I created a function, passed in 2 objects, and then those objects have those true properties. I'm checking if both of them are true, then print this, otherwise don't do anything. All right, should I be able to run this? No, excellent. What am I missing? I haven't called my function. Man, it's so difficult. I miss those days where you guys were like clueless. All right, let's do this. And there it is. Okay. And if I change this to false, just for testing. Oh, you know what? Just keep this true. Before I make that function, let's change that back to false, and that should cats dot reigning false. And now I don't see it. Okay, just for testing purpose, making sure both of the conditions work. All right, questions? Okay, so this kind of ties into our next exercise, and that's the new concept that I'm going to introduce to you guys today. So there's no problem with this code. I mean, it works, but what do you guys see? What was that? Repeating code. Excellent, right? You see, it's same. The properties are exactly the same. No change in the property keys, at least, right? The values are different. That's okay, but the keys are same. So with the new version of JavaScript, what they introduced is something called constructors. Constructors. Okay. What is a constructor? It constructs, right? Exactly that's what it does, right? It constructs. But what does it construct? It constructs an object. That's what it does. right? In any other programming language, it's the same concept. Whenever you run into constructors in any other language, they are doing the same thing. They are constructing an object. The only difference is JavaScript objects definition of object is a little bit different from other ones, but the concept that we are looking at today is still the same. It constructor creates an object for you. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm creating these objects, right? But these objects have the same property. So what a constructor does is you define your initial kind of template, initial properties, and any object that kind of has the same property, you don't have to keep writing different cats, dogs. If there's a mouse, then you don't have to create a third object over here. You can reuse the same code using the constructor, and it will create the same object. Okay. Again, the purpose of a constructor is constructing objects, taking out repetition that we are doing over here. The next thing, we'll look at the code and you will see how it does it. Okay, but that's what a constructor does. It's making objects for you. Okay, now how do we do this in JavaScript? So let me go ahead and create a folder, constructor. Let's call it constructor, and constructor.js. Okay, and let's see, this is exercise number, oh, okay, so I don't have a readme or anything, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so the first thing is, how do we declare a constructor? In JavaScript, a constructor is simply a function. So you will declare a constructor just like how you declare a function. All right. The declaration part is exactly the same as you do it for a function. So how do we do it for a function? Constructor declaration is same as function declaration. Okay. Now how do we do that? We say function. We give it a name and then some parameters. All right, this is how you declare a function, and this is the same way you declare a constructor. When you look at a function and when you look at a constructor, the definition is the same, but we follow some standard practice. Any function that you are designating to be a constructor, instead of using the camel casing, we start the name with uppercase. So for example, I'm creating a constructor called animal. Let me remove this. Okay. Again, from the definition, when the code runs, when the code looks at it, it is still a function. But when we as programmers look at this code, I can tell this is a constructor just if I'm being a good programmer and I'm following the naming convention. By naming convention, remember what's the naming convention called? The camel casing is the first one is lowercase. So example, if I had animal, what is it? Normal? No. So if I had a second name attached to it, says the animal constructor, this is how I do it, right? Uppercase every, the first letter of every word. Okay, and camel casing is this thing. The first letter is small. Okay. So when you're creating constructor, just being a good programmer, following the same coding standards, we declare our constructor with an uppercase. Again, I can totally do camel casing and this will still work. All right. From the code perspective, when JavaScript runs this code, it doesn't matter, right? It only matters when we as humans are looking at it. Okay, that's the first thing. So anytime you are your intention is to create a constructor, please use this naming convention. Yes. Oh, at this point there's no difference, right? Constructor from the concept is it creates objects, right? That's the definition. We haven't gotten to the coding part yet. So the first part we are doing is we are creating a constructor. And and in JavaScript, how do you create a constructor? Exactly the same way you create a function, right? You write function, give it a name, and then some parameters. At this point, the only thing is the naming convention that tells you that this is a constructor. Otherwise, there's no difference between a function and a constructor at this point. Okay? The difference comes when we create an object. That's how the difference is, and I'll show you in a minute. First, I'm creating a constructor. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a constructor and pass in two parameters that we are using from our previous example. Okay, raining and noise. Now, a constructor is generally, you give it a name that is general, right? If I'm creating a constructor that should represent my cats and dogs, I'm going to call it something that is common to both. And animals is the word that comes to my mind, so I use it animal. Okay? Something more general. All right, so in my constructor, I'm passing this in, and here's the difference. Remember in our object, I can type and talk at the same time for some reason. All right. In our object, we were using the this keyword, right? So it's the same thing over here. When you create a constructor and then you want to use these variables inside that constructor, you start like this. So this dot raining is a variable that exists within this function. All right, we don't see it, we haven't declared it, but when JavaScript will run, it will, when you designate this as a constructor, it will consider this as a variable which is inside this constructor. And the second part is coming from over here that you are passing in. Okay, let me complete this code and we'll see how, when we call this, how this is working. The second was noise, so I'm going to say this dot noise is equal to noise. Again, these two names do not have to match. You can create this anything you want. Rain. Okay. The only thing is, by standard, you will see people using the same name that is being passed in. The only difference is that using this keyword over here, and there's no this keyword over here. That's the difference. Again, these two names do not have to match. These two names have to match this and this, and you can create anything. Again, by convention, you will see people use the same name. Right? As I said, it's really difficult for us to come up with better names, so we just use the same names. All right, the third property was a function, right? So let's create a function, make noise. Same syntax, I'll create a function. Don't need to pass in anything over here. And I had an if condition, right? If this dot raining is true, then I was console logging the noise. So this dot noise. Okay, so at this point, all I have done is, instead of a object declaration, this has changed to a function, right? But if you see, I still have these properties over here and assigning some values that are being passed in. Okay, so this is how you declare a constructor. Now again, at this point, it still looks like a function, right? The difference comes when we start creating an object. Now, how do I create a dogs object from using this? What you do is let dogs, right? Instead of var, I'm using let, no difference. And then this is the important keyword, new animal. Let me show you the help that it is saying. I need to pass in two arguments, raining and noise. So let's say I can pass in true, and then my value was woof for the dog. Okay, what is happening on line number 19 is I'm creating a new object using a constructor, and it has the same values, same properties, raining, noise, and make noise. Okay, now what is the advantage of this? I can create cats with same one line. I don't have to go back and redo and Laura, this was false, right? The raining one for cats. I'm just making sure. Okay. So same thing. I have initial values true and false for each one, and then I have different string values for noise. You see what happened? I have taken the common code out, put it in a constructor, and I'm using the new constructor syntax to create my objects. So dogs will be an object and cats will be an object using the constructor. Now the difference comes in this new keyword. Every time JavaScript sees a new keyword, it understands this animal is a constructor. Okay, that's how JavaScript will know. And that's the difference between a function and a constructor. Use the new keyword. If you take this new keyword out, you are basically just calling a function called animal. And it's going to kind of mess up everything because that's not how we coded it. Okay? The way we coded is this is a constructor, and this is why the keyword over here, this is going to work, because we are saying this is a constructor, this keyword is valid over here. Now, what is this keyword doing? It is creating, when you create this object dogs with these two values, it is saying that, okay, I'm going to use the same constructor for both dogs and cats, but they are isolated also, right? Because cat has this value, right, and dog has these values. So when you create a constructor, this is where this keyword, this is the scoping issue that comes in over here. It is saying that, create a new object, but only have the values that are being passed in assigned to this object, right? When you create a new object, create a new object and assign only these values, kind of keep them isolated, right? And that's where this keyword is important, and that's what is making that isolation also. It's creating new objects and also keeping every new object isolated from the next one, so that what happens is I don't get the wrong value. I don't get false for dogs because that's not how the object that I created. Okay, let's console log. Ooh, no. Let me console log this, and then we'll go into see what happening. So if I console log dogs, and then I console log cats, let's run this, and then we'll jump on to questions. So this is called constructor. Okay. So node constructor. And when I console log this, you see it console logs two different objects, and both of them have different values. Okay. What questions do we have? Yes, Dante.
So when you declare your variables for cats and dogs, you use let. In this situation, like let's still local.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You could be more used to using the let keyword instead of the var, but at this point, you're right, it doesn't matter. You can do it var, you can do it let, it doesn't matter. Yes. You can use, actually, you know what, you're right. You can actually use const over here. That's really good because I'm not changing anything. That's,
You want your pets to say the same.
yeah, for now. Oh yeah, okay. Good catch. So I'm going to use const because I'm not changing anything. Yes, Matt?
So is there, what if you need to make like 50 animal objects?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to throw it in a loop, or is there like a short loop?
You have to throw it in a loop. Yeah, that's the shortest as it gets. You got a question? Okay.
So the scope ended right above it, we using bars, correct?
What is it?
So let's say the scope ended on line number 17. We're using bars, right?
If the scope ended on line 17, I would be using var. No. Okay. Let's go back. Don't use var at all. Just start using let. How's that? See, seriously. So at this point, you want var, as I said, is accessible everywhere. So even if you declare a variable using let on the top, it's still fine because that's your intention. You're trying to make it global. That's fine. So what my intention is, stay away from var. Just use let or const. All right. You get it? And again, the reason is um, if the case when you have an if condition and I'm in the habit of using let and I want to create a variable inside it, I will just use let and create a variable. So what will happen is it takes some var. It takes a thinking part out that I don't need to focus now. Should I make this var or should I make it let? I don't know, right? I don't want to think that much. I just want to keep it let. If my intention is to keep it local over here, this will also work. If that's not the case, I'm going to get an error, then I need to move my let on the top somewhere. But right now I just have one keyword. It doesn't matter what that is. They both serve the same function, right? Var and let at this point, it doesn't matter, but it gives me this scope that if I'm using in a different condition, if an if statement, it won't be accessible outside. So simply just stop using var. I would just start using let for now. Okay? Yes.
You mean just use let and const when working with these constructor functions?
No, everywhere. Forget about var at all. That's what I'm saying.
That's
Forget
why
about
I was-
var.
That's why I was asking that, because like, so people do still use var, but it's
Yeah.
mostly just if they find code that's old.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
It makes sense though now because I see
Right.
let, like if you look at websites,
Yeah, they're using
all
let.
the loop, for loops. And
Right, they're kind of shifting it. Even if you see the help that Visual Studio gives, if you type in the for loop, it automatically puts in this let. Yeah. So they are kind of encouraging us to move into this new. Yeah. Do you have a question? Who had a question? No. Yes.
Yeah, so if your constructor object, say it had, instead of just having 3 keys and 3 values, it had 5 or 6 keys and values. When you go down to pass through the properties, how do you assign it? So you always put them there.
Yeah. Again, it depends about your use case, but usually you will see people putting over here. Why? Because now you are kind of forcing somebody else who's using your code to conform to this requirement because you need this value. Let's suppose your code is going to break if you do not provide the noise, right? And if I take it out of here, people are not going to pass. So I want to make sure I want to force people to use my constructor and then pass in some value. So that's how you do it. Yeah. Yes.
So if you construct these objects as constants, does that mean everything in it is a constant? Like you can't change rain to true for cats now?
Excellent question, and that's what we were going to code it in a little bit. We'll see what happens if. Right now, it works because I'm not changing anything. So let's go ahead and change in a bit, and then we'll see what's the error or not. But good question. All right. Anything else constructor related? Good. Okay. Again, this is common across different languages, and I just want you guys to focus. To be honest, I have never seen somebody using a constructor in JavaScript. I'll be honest. I don't know why you would use it. It's just a new attraction that they're like, hey, you work on Java. How about use JavaScript? Well, you don't have construction objects. Here we have construction objects. Now, do you like it now? No. So that's why it's one of those topics that I don't really like. Yes.
I think in the Node Spotify package that we're using,
Right.
It does have us use it.
Right. So, and if you see some of the Node libraries that you are using, some of the code you see, I don't know if it is Spotify or something, but you will see Spotify, and then curly bracket. You need to pass something in. So that's the constructor. You're basically calling a constructor, and they are kind of building that object for you. Okay. But this is on the Node.js side. On the front end side, I don't know. I have not seen people using constructor. It's what I read. It's one of the most underutilized feature of JavaScript. Again, it's new, and maybe people are not used to it. To be honest, I mean, this is the example and it works over here. But in practical terms, we are getting all our objects as a JSON, right, from somewhere else. I don't know why I would have to create a constructor and do this. But again, the concept is there. It's good to know that this exists. So somebody asks you, hey, how do you do constructor in JavaScript? This is how you do it. All right. Practical value, I don't know if you will come across on your front end side, on your projects that you're creating a constructor. I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't done this in JavaScript and other languages. This is the foundation of some of the other languages. And if you're interested, it's called object-oriented programming. Look that up. OOP.
Oh, that's what that is.
That's what it is.
I've
Object.
seen that, like,
Obviously overpowered.
in job descriptions where they're like, yeah.
So Java, C Sharp, C++, this is the foundation of those languages. JavaScript is trying to be like, I want to be able to.
Well, I've seen that where they're like,
Not
it
really.
just says if you know that, it's not
Yeah.
like a requirement for the job, but it's like, hey, it's helpful if you know
I just thought
Right.
that.
Right.
So now, okay.
JavaScript is pseudo
You
object
said
oriented
that the
programming.
JavaScript that is using it is the newest version?
Yeah.
This is the newer version? When did that, was that like newer like this year or?
Oh no, it's been a couple of years
A
now.
couple of
It's
years.
been a few years.
So even though it's been out a couple of years, like that still isn't constant. It's
Yeah, again, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
still-
The people who are what do you call like pure JavaScript developers? Again, to me it doesn't make sense when you JavaScript is that wild west language and you can do anything in JavaScript. This is making it maybe more organized, and people are like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it.
That's not what
So
we
They
use
don't like
JavaScript for.
yeah, that's not why we jumped into JavaScript. Has to be unorganized, but and then behind the scenes, you see even the constructor is just a function, and there are some more details. I won't go through it, but they are kind of I feel like they're just faking it, making a constructor. But yeah, but it is important. Why is it important? Because you are never going to stick to one language. You're going to go ahead and learn something new, right? And then in some other languages, this is the foundation, and you absolutely need to know these concepts. So when you go over there, you will know what a constructor is and what it does. It creates objects and all that stuff. Okay, that's why it is important. What is it?
So that's why I was pumped. Just because it's important. Otherwise,
Yes, it is. It is. The concept is really important. Yeah. JavaScript, not so much. But since we don't know any other language at this point, so that's why we have to work with JavaScript. Okay. You did Matt. You did C++, right? I was totally expecting some question like a constructor C++ because C++ is totally object-oriented programming, and Java is also. Well, Java started and I think C++ copied or whatever. Okay. Any other question before we move on? All right. Matt had a comment about updating these properties. So in our previous example, we did was if I want to change. Let's call the function first so that we can see what's going on. So if I want to call make noise, I will say dogs.makeNoise, right? And since the value is true, this should come back as wolf. That works. Let me comment this out so that kind of takes these things. And then if I do cats, it shouldn't output anything because my cat's rating is set to false. Okay. Now if I want to make this to true, so let's go ahead and same
That
as
way it doesn't give you an error.
what is it?
It doesn't give you an error. Did it?
Why would it give me an error?
Like before when you try to call it, it gave you an error. For true.
Because of the cons.
Is it because of the cons that it doesn't give you the error now? When we did it on the original one, when you tried to call it, didn't it give you an error in the node saying that it wasn't?
So when he tried to change the
I
makes
couldn't remember.
noise to
False,
true
yeah.
from false to true, but it was throwing an error because it was set to cons.
Sure.
The object was being declared as a constant instead of a variable.
In the previous one,
I'm just asking. I'm not saying. I'm just
I don't
asking.
know.
I didn't have a const over here at all.
Try to change it and show the error.
Was it the first exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it gave you like an error when you called it.
Oh
It wasn't-
yeah, in the first one,
Yeah.
but not related to this anything, right? Not related to cats and dogs.
Never mind. Everything's out.
Yeah. So that's a totally different one. We are getting to see if that error comes up. Right now, I'm not changing anything. I'm just calling the functions, right? So I'm saying dogs make noise, cast dot make noise calling the function. I'm not changing the object right now. Now I'm going to change the object. So if I'm going to change, I'm going to say cast dot raining is equal to true. So the const over here, Matt, you see the variables. Oh, the properties that are inside this thing, it's not considering that you are changing those properties as a part of a constant. So you can do it const or that, it doesn't matter at this in this case. Okay, so what Matt was wondering is that if I change these properties, right? These properties exist inside my constructor. If I declare my object as a const, does it do anything? So the const keyword doesn't affect anything that is inside. Again, this might be confusing. I don't want to go in that discussion for now. What I want you guys to focus is that I have two objects and I can call the functions on that objects and then I can change the properties of those objects. Same as the previous one. Exactly same thing that we did in the previous one. We did make noise. We updated the property. You can actually even add a property. I think so. Let's see there. Cats dot friendly. So let's go ahead and console log cats object. Okay. All right. Did you see what happened? So does this friendly property exist in my original constructor? It does not. Right? If I want to add a new property to just specific to one object, I can just do object name and then just add that new property and give it a value. So you see when I output the cats object, it has kind of added that property. But the dogs won't have that property because I didn't add into my dogs object. Okay, so dogs stop at make noise. It doesn't have a friendly property. So what I'm trying to show you is that if there's a new property that you want to add without modifying the constructor, this is how you do it. You just add it to your object and it will kind of embed that property inside your object. Okay, so your cats object has that property but your dogs doesn't. Let's suppose you will run into some cases that a property is only unique to one object but is not relevant to the other one, right? Because this is a more general case, right? Anything that is more common to both objects or more than one object, that's what you put in your constructor. Anything that is more unique, you can directly attach it to your object. Okay? Getting it? Maybe? All right. I think you guys need to do an exercise so that you can kind of embed this concept. All right? All right. Any other questions? So let's go ahead and try this out. Let's see what the next exercise is. It's called character create. Okay. Let me create a folder. Character. I'm just going to call it character, and then let me add this readme here. All right, let me go through this and we'll take a break 15 minutes and then we'll start this one. Okay, so in this one you are creating you're going to use constructor. Okay, you're going to create a constructor with all these properties: name, profession, gender, age, strength, hit points, print stats. Okay, start with that. And then once you have that constructor done, create two new characters. What does it mean? Create two new objects, basically using your new constructor. Okay, again, constructor is a function. So start with a syntax called, I think it will be function character. Okay, you can pass in all these properties: name, profession, gender, age, and then you're going to assign them using this keyword, this dot name is going to be equal to the name that you pass in. This dot profession is going to be the profession that you pass in, and so on. And then go ahead and create 2 new characters and then print their properties. Now, how are you going to print? You have a function over here called print stats. Okay? And you're going to print everything. Once you are done, then we can move on to the second part. But let's make sure that this is the more important one. For the next part, you won't be able to do it if this is not there anyway. Okay? All right, we'll take a break. We'll start at like 7:45. We'll start with this exercise.
Professional.
Yeah.
And then you're slacking on that.
I haven't done any of that. Some of it, like the first 2 weeks.
Was it Pascal
So
case?
answer the question.
Is it past what?
Was it Pascal case?
Right here.
For the uppercase?
Oh, is it Pascal casing?
I googled it. That's the first thing that came up.
I think it's
Pascal.
Pascal casing. Yeah, Pascal casing. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So I tried to change cats to like a string that said potato, and it wouldn't let me do that. So it seems like const means it has to stay an object. You can do whatever you want with the object. Is that right?
Hold on, give me a minute.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can talk to students. I was going to tell you. I found a new project this week called VS Code Yum. Which I'm
So you can see that
if
we changed
you've
it
never
here.
heard of it,
And so it does run. Doesn't counts, whatever.
it's been
What I'm
again
saying
on like
is, if
open
you
source.
change
It's
the
VS
object
Code
itself,
rebuilt without the Microsoft telemetry in it, so there's no
So
floating
you
home
can't then
usage
just
statistics or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
They took the whole. They
that bit right
They
there.
took the source, the
But
literal
whatever's
binary
inside
source
Oh, yeah,
from
because
VS
it's,
Code,
property, yeah.
rebuilt
Open
it,
source.
Right.
and just stripped out the
Yes, you
Microsoft
can.
like
Really?
phone home pieces, and
this,
said,
this holds
"Here you
true
go."
for
And I said,
not just objects, but even if you
Sign me up.
say const
"It was like,
so
thank
you
you
string,
for the open source
you can't,
software.
Yeah.
Screw you. You
Yeah,
can't have my
that's
data."
what it seems like.
So I'm
Okay,
telling
I'll
all my
look
friends
into
about it.
Okay.
So it's just Google it and you can find the repo, and they've got
Okay.
it installs, through
Since
Homebrew or
this
whatever
is
you want to
getting
install.
Okay.
to this object, you can change the property values of the object itself, but you cannot change what value this is actually holding. So this is what we're doing here, and you can see we get an error, and you can say that assignment to constant variable. So,
Okay.
so that's why we can't change the object
Daniel.
or this
Yes.
variable's
This
value
thing.
itself.
Can I do what?
If that makes
Here.
sense.
Is it homework?
Just make
Oh,
sure that I was
It's
understanding
that what we're doing.
Sure.
Because
Cause like
so
I don't know,
it is
it's like
just
working, but I know this isn't the
dogs
right way to do it.
thing itself.
Yes, you
Name,
can.
profession.
I believe so.
Okay.
And I know it's
I don't
not.
think
There's a better way to do it. I get it. I mean, when I do that, it's pushing those in like console log it.
Okay. Yeah.
But is that the way? It seems like that's.
So what I understand.
So you see your function is expecting 2 parameters, name and profession.
Yeah.
In any other language, you will get an error, but JavaScript is weird, so it doesn't even give you any. You need to pass in name and profession.
I have that
These 2
there.
things. Where?
Well, I deleted it. Look.
Okay. Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had that there.
Okay.
But initially, like, if I
Even
just
though it is
if I
a
console log
Console
And
log.
this goes back
if I
to
comment that out,
the
it
same
doesn't.
kind of concept with
Nothing
so
split.
primitive types in JavaScript are essentially numbers,
It
strings,
didn't put the name. I
undefined,
thought it at least would have put the name and profession in there.
Right.
because
So,
that's-
so what are you doing in your
So primitive
your
types
constructor?
are
What are you
essentially
assigning
valid
this dot
types.
names?
Reference
String.
types
Empty string.
are essentially a reference to something. Arrays and objects.
So it's printing empty string because you're assigning empty string.
Meaning, if you say
I also just leave
const,
blank there?
No.
you know,
You need to assign it
var,
to this
let
name, to
dogs
this variable that
equals
you're
some
passing.
new
Remember, I
object.
was saying that
Dogs.
this dot
Oh,
name
it
is
has to
equal
be the same
Right.
name. Oh, those are the two that happen. Okay.
Yeah,
I even wrote that down.
So it's working, but you are hard coding empty strings. So say, oh, it's empty string.
Okay, I get you. That's yeah. So if those parameters are passed through, those always have to match whatever you're going to make the variable. Because you said you can name this whatever.
Whatever, yes. But whatever you put over these two should
That
match.
mainly kind of goes
Okay.
around how
Okay, cool.
things are how things are stored. So for objects, it requires multiple bytes of memory, right? And so you can't just instead of like holding that value inside the variable itself, they actually hold a reference, like a memory location to that object. And when you reference it, it goes to this certain memory location. You're like, oh, okay, this, encompasses this, right? And numbers, strings, and so forth, because they're primitive types, you're able to actually store that specific value inside that memory. So that's the main difference. So, and the same thing goes, like if you were to say, A equals sum of A, and you said, A equals Bob, that will work because it's a constant. So that's how const works.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I can't declare it as anything. I can monkey with it.
Inside the object, but you cannot modify the OS. So that if now it changes to that, and this should perform.
Oh. My first test didn't know. Okay, so it is giving me the constant.
Yeah.
It's missing all these superpowered moons. You're supposed to go to Sedona and go skinny dipping in a vortex.
The
rifts, the vortex eye.
That's how you recharge your chakras.
Basically assign a new.
If you want to supercharge your chakras,
I could make a new one, but I have to go and pick it apart one at a time.
I didn't get a fancy phone like that. Joel, for that answer, that's one of my characters.
All right. As long as you make me everlasting life.
Profession, king,
Mm.
king of the Andals.
Or form.
Oh, me?
No,
Put Aaron in there?
no, yeah, but your profession is lazy guy.
No.
What did I do?
It was flat. That's the nickname.
Pretty felt.
Old enough. One.
Just for your reference, this is how I create the constructor. So I'm going to keep this over here, and then you can refer to this one.
it's so confusing because
So like you have to do it this way. It just seems it works. Like that's the way. Because like, if I put these in there,
Yeah.
it's like it works.
So there are two ways.
It just seems like.
You can do this in one line, but now you have to do it in like 3 or 4. If you have like 10 properties, you have like 10 separate lines.
Yeah, that's more. So if you can only pass those two parameters,
So add more.
just add as many.
Yeah. Keep adding all more. Get in the habit of adding those parameters because in other languages it's so strict. The way you are doing it will throw an error and won't give you the JavaScript just lets you do anything and everything.
JavaScript.
Everybody can have as many parameters as you want.
You can have as many and as few as you want, as long as you use them or don't use them. JavaScript doesn't care.
Yeah, it doesn't care.
As long as you're writing in JavaScript, it's like there are no rules, except it just won't work unless you do comments. Then it'll just.
I'll be okay with that.
So on the left, I have the example that I coded. On the right is the instructions for the next exercise. I just have this as a reference if you guys want to see how to use this to create this one. You like constructors yet, Billy?
I just like the fact that you can, I don't know, like manipulate, create objects like that. Like when I didn't get around to finishing it, but when I started the Star Wars RPG, that's how I was creating my Jedi.
Yeah. Yep.
So boom, take that. Constructor used in JavaScript.
If you're making the Star Wars app or RPG.
Yeah, I know. Still.
Right.
I am going to leave that one.
So that was a whole big learning.
This is number
Unlimited read.
It's JavaScript.
number 3. Number 3. 3.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
And Nick already slacked that exercise out.
So then I can do a new person. We'll say,
I read books.
So, that just made me think of a funny story from work. So, there was an advocate talking to a customer on the phone, but at the same time, they were just goofing off and looking at gifts in like one of our Slack channels. And they were going to send a link to a customer, and unfortunately, they sent the wrong link. Guess when they sent instead? They sent a link to a GIF. And it was a GIF of Dobby. But it was not only a GIF of Dobby, it was a GIF of Dobby saying, Dobby is a free bitch. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Did they react pleasantly?
Yeah, so that person still has their job, by the way. So
That's a good person who has a sense of humor. Some people don't have sense of humor. Escalate things.
So let's do it.
I really want to look at that.
oh, it's real good. It's real good.
I mean, it still do what it's
That's literally what I wrote down.
I just did.
It is a fork. It is a gout.
It's crazy.
So far, the only use for
If I learn, if I do this, I can go back and make an RPG. Oh, it's crazy.
Those are like mind
So just imagine that you're waiting to get like a link to like upload your documents.
He's getting it. He's getting it.
Click on the link.
Yeah, he's getting
I
it.
keep them around.
Yeah. That's very smart.
It's all about ES6, baby. Arrow functions all day.
Oh.
So I started with all the child using ES6 for
It was a mistake.
Say you have like just for the sake of convention. Just and say that array equals array, and we do like 1, 2, and then comma dot values, and it'll store the rest of it. I have to show it to you. And I don't know like a proper use case, but we need to start redoing data structures. So we're like, I want 0, 1.
Like,
And the rest is stored in the
right, so, I figure.
We're still.
I didn't get it. I just got 10. Hey, take this.
Okay. You kind of do get a lot of information for it, but kind of want.
Just so on you get. So I have all the everything from 1 to 10. And then just to get the AC.
Like,
So in here, it should have. Because it wasn't on AC.
that might have.
So it should have another one for.
Take a break for that.
If I go back here.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm giving you strength
There
10.
we go.
Maybe I'll make it down to 5.
So,
It's true. I mean, it makes more sense that way. Like, just like the way he does this company looking at you.
I need the characters on you. I should have the weapon.
Do I get four? Is there any error? See, it's aborting. It's giving me. So it looks like you modify something, and that's what you have. I thought you had a separate copy that you don't modify. Huh? You were saying you had a separate copy that you don't modify. Yeah. Of the code. Remember we were talking, and that's what I was saying. You were saying when you have a separate folder that you don't modify, and then you copy things over there.
Right, so if I unzip a file from, yeah, there's a. Yeah, if I unzip a file, it gets mapped to different locations.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, so here's the problem with this whole thing is that you are pulling from the repository and then you are modifying the code also. So that's why you were you were trying to do some solution, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And then now I posted the solution. So when you do a poll, it's getting merged conflict with your solution.
She was at the store and I'm like,
Can I just try it out?
because we live in a the above that.
That's why I was saying keep a separate copy that you don't modify anything on the one that you post.
It's like not, it's not strong.
Because that's the
It's
exact
kind of very
issue that you guys
dry.
have. I think what gets that.
It is quite dry on the.
Now we all get the
I can see it wouldn't be for everybody. Yeah, they've got dragon fruit and pomegranate. They've got blueberries.
Yeah, so-
lemonade.
You have some activities inside your.
Yeah, pretty much all. That I've seen.
So go to the.
They've also got
and
which is their caffeine, like their caffeine as well. This is
So the other thing is you have to Do you care for the solution that you have written, or do you want this? Do a right click on that?
Well, I wanna keep the solid.
Yeah, solve is always will be there. But you'll get like a fresh copy.
So if I,
Oh, okay. Yeah, do a right click.
so I do it on bank.
No. Come out of this.
Oh, it's only if
Go to that.
Also, that first function is pretty much your construct that you're going for judge grade.
For sure. Coffee.
Alright. Oh, so I see. You can change things up, but that has to be the same. So you will, I'm just really not just using context, and then you say. I am. But you use.
Like no match, man.
It's
funny, man. You're 34, you
You know
don't
what?
think back
You know
like,
what's so
goddamn,
funny?
I'm
50. You know what's
I have
so
to
funny about
say-
money that's 35?
Oh.
You said the same thing.
That's true. It's like I shave, like people
It's
like
like
I
the
get
same
carded.
shit.
I'm so funny. That's why I do this just so I can.
Only-
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I want my liquor. It's like I get it. I'm a really good looking guy. Leave me alone.
I looked up the structure.
Angry. I just stopped talking to like waitresses.
Because so GitLab, right? If you want to modify, create a separate copy.
Hell yeah, dude.
So if you work both without
But so that's the thing is that it's not.
His mom is like,
Is she a white woman? Keep getting new things.
She's
Because otherwise, if you modify the same copy,
Yeah,
and you cannot merge the copies. That'll be a bit. But for now, this is fine.
I mean, I gotta say,
Yeah, that's what I was.
Michael, one of our friends, when he met my dad, he was like, "Yo, I thought you had a younger brother, not an older brother too." He's like, my brother's like, "No,
I'm his father. Child.
that's dumb.
So yeah, the only problem is epigenetics. So my dad and my mom are Scottish, so they spent 30 years each, like separate, just living in a place with
Oh, they're like.
So were we able to complete the constructor part? Created a constructor?
was what is the favorite alcoholic beverage of the Scotsman or whatever? And it has whiskey twice because Scotland spells whiskey different than Ireland does.
Same way.
Really?
You have to spell it different.
I learned a little bit
The
because of
Scottish
Asian people, so
equals
it's
age.
Yes.
on the
Okay.
internet.
She's actually a woman?
No, she's got great shit. Like, it wasn't like it was like a hip hop movie. Like, she lives like by.
So you're going to pass a number instead of
It's like she lives by like the Walkness
Okay,
Lake
and
and
then when you
shit.
go
So
down
like
there,
I would ask her like, hey, ask your dad like what is good
The number.
whiskey, and I learned that like regional. So like some regions like that really like peaty.
So there's three
So
different
integer
there's
just
three
means
different
that,
kinds of whiskey.
When you're passing a gender, right, you're going to say male, female or something.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? When you're passing, calling an age, you're going to pass a number, like without the
Right.
codes.
But at the bottom where it says like,
Yeah.
so we have it
Or
on
something
here,
like
no, on
what
the
is
code
like Petty
part,
Sark, you know.
where
Yeah,
we're
like a
actually
single
doing
malt.
like
Lager.
let dogs.
I like Lager with Parks and Rec.
Like-
Drinking and it was just
Yeah,
good.
so you-
you
this is
know?
a Boolean,
But, like,
this is a string, and then you go pass it.
like
the number.
There's no difference between a
But-
12
okay.
Without the
year or a 15 year rather than $60. So if you're gonna go, just get the 12.
cool.
It's not something that uses.
So let me go ahead and create a character JS. So create a character constructor. So a constructor is just a function. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it character. Eventually, I'm going to pass in some parameters. For now, this is my constructor. Okay. Now my constructor has some properties. The first one is called name. So I'm going to pass in name, and then I'm going to assign it this dot name is equal to name. Okay. The second one is profession. So I'm going to pass in profession, and then I'm going to assign this to this variable. Okay. Third one is gender. So I'm going to pass in gender. Same thing. Okay. The next one is age. This dot age. The next one is strength. This strength. And this is going to be this dot strength. Strength. Okay. The next one is hit points. Let's go ahead and pass in hit points. Should I make it camel case? Hit points. Or is hit points one word? Can't decide. There you go. This dot HP. You guys are not true engineers because you came up with a better name. So
Not yet.
I'm just kidding. Huh?
We could debate some more about camel casing.
Yeah. See. It should be this. Should be this. All right. So I did the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. And then I have to create a function. So I don't need to pass in a function. I just can create a function. So this dot function is called print stats. It is a function with no parameters. Okay.
It's not raining cats anymore. It's pretty bad.
Everybody see how I create a constructor? Character with the properties and one function.
Yes. Amazing.
You guys doing the bonus?
Let's make it. I'm putting it in there. Trying.
You have to scroll down and see if the bonus.
Yeah.
I have a function.
You guys have already leveled up. Now you should directly go to bonus parts and do. Yes.
I'm stuck on the attack one because I don't know how to pass in a second character's.
Oh, on this side?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what I'm stuck on as well. If you'd like to code.
We'll come there, but why don't you guys discuss and come up with a solution?
So wait.
And slowly,
Slowly.
with lower voices. All right. So it says print stats function which prints all the characters' properties. So I just need to do a console log. So I'm going to do console log of each of these properties. Log this dot name. Okay. Let's make it a little bit user friendly. So I'm going to say name like this. Okay. And then let's do profession.
I made the function, right? So then.
This dot profession.
It says you have to take in second characters anyways, but if you, I'm like, I guess you can just, yeah. I
Okay.
guess you can.
The next one is console log gender. So let's print out gender. This dot gender. Age. This dot age. Strength. This dot strength. Okay. Oh, I'm missing the HP. So is this okay to write like this? No? Oh man, you guys. All right, let me change it to HP uppercase. There you go. Okay. So now I have all my properties listed, and then this function should call and then list my properties. You just console log this. Yeah. All right. So the next thing is we have to create two characters. So this is my end of my constructor. Let's go ahead and create. So let's say let's see. Create a character, a new keyword, okay, and then my constructor. And my constructor takes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters. So let's go ahead and so the first is the name. Okay. Second is profession. Oops. Third is gender. Age. Strength. Strength is a string or a number? Number. Okay. Let's do number. And how much health? Let's give it 52. And that is my constructor. Okay. All right. Let's see if this works, and then we'll create a new one. So if I want to make sure this is working, I will say my object name dot sorry, what was it? Print stats. Let's go ahead and run this and see if this is working. Okay, there it is. So I'm able to create an object, and I'm able to assign everything to it. Why do I have an extra space? 1, 2. Oh, because I'm using the comma syntax, so I don't need this space here. All right, that's better. Okay, how many objects do I need to create? 2. So let's go ahead and create one more. New character.
Just waiting for the name.
What is it? Did I miss something?
I named one Iron Man.
Oh.
Comics.
Not yet.
I know Nightcrawler.
Random weird.
Is Ryan Reynolds always been?
Well, I just remember
H.
the short film thing with the origin.
Strength. Let's give it 40. Hit points.
What's going on?
Okay. So let's go ahead and call this object with the. Alright. So I'm able to console log everything. Let me go ahead and add a like a line or something. So that when I print this out, comes out different. Okay, there you go. So I have my first object, I have my second object, so I'm able to create a constructor, and then I'm able to create my objects. How do I know this is working? Because I call the function that should print everything that I passed in my constructor. Right, did everyone get to this point and understand what's going on? Okay. Let's see, what's the next one? Is alive. Function which prints whether or not this character is alive by looking into their hit points are above or below 0. Okay. So let's start with the alive function. Let's go back here. This dot print stats after this. So this dot is alive. It's a function, and it is checking if the hit points are above 0. This means the character is alive, otherwise it's not. Okay, so I need a if condition. If this dot HP is greater than 0, you can console log something. Should I console log? Let's say this dot name is alive. Okay. So if the HP, the requirements are if the HP is above 0. If the HP is above 0, I'm going to go ahead and say it is alive. If not, then it's then the character is not alive. Okay. Okay. Now this is the function called is alive. So I need to return something, right? I need to tell the user if this happened or not. So let me go ahead and return true. Okay, because when I call is alive, it is asking whether this is alive, character is alive or not. So if the character is alive, then return true. Otherwise say console log this dot name is dead, and then return false. Okay. The simpler way to do this is not simpler, more like a if you want to make it easy, you can say else console log this dot name is dead. Alright, then you're not returning anything. But this, when you use this kind of syntax, is alive or is confirmed, is something, by convention you should be returning true or false. Okay. Alright, we can modify this if this changes, but this should be good. So if I call this function on Captain America, right now it should say is okay, Captain America is alive. Let's go ahead and set Iron Man dot HP to 0. Oops. Just for testing, and then let's call that function Iron Man dot is alive, and this time Captain America is alive and Iron Man should be dead. Okay. So yeah.
That is so good.
Alright, so this was for testing. So my function works. If it is greater than 0, it will say alive. If it is not less than or equal to 0, it's going to say dead. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, attack. Did you guys figure out the attack method? A function which takes in a second character's hit points and subtracts this character's strength from it. What's difficult in this one? This dot attack. So I'm going to do the function. Okay. So it is saying this function takes in a character's hit points. So you can do this two ways. Either I can pass in the whole character object, or I can pass in just the hit points and then use that. So what I mean is I need to pass in something. So I need to, let's suppose I pass in character 2. Remember from dogs and cats, I was passing two objects, dogs and cats objects. So if I follow the same one, the similar one, I can pass in some other object, which is my second character. So what will happen is, if I say Captain America and then pass in Iron Man, this means Captain America is attacking Iron Man. So the next part, it says it takes in a second character. Okay, I passed in a second character, and the hit points are going to be subtract from this character's strength. Okay. So the pass in dot HP, okay, is equal to whatever the HP for this character are, and then minus that from what? From the strength. So you see the difference, hit points and strength. Again, those are just variable names, but what we are trying to do is we are trying to reduce this hit points, right? They start from 40 or 50. Every time the attack happens, you want to reduce that by some number. You can do it by 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. Yes?
So why doesn't you have to do character 2 dot strength?
Character do what?
Character 2 dot strength, why do you do this strength instead?
Character, say that again?
You did character 2 dot HP, why do you do character 2 dot strength? Why was it this instead of?
Oh, because we are trying to reduce the hit points, right?
Oh.
So we are trying to reduce the hit points, and we are using the strength number to reduce by that something.
Oh, okay.
So we are trying to reduce the hit points.
Right.
And then a short.
In this one, aren't you having character 2 reducing their hit points by their own strength?
Yes. Yep. Let me write a short form for this, and then we'll see what happens. I see what you mean. Let me correct this. Character 2. Oh, sorry.
He's burned himself in confusion, I see.
Yeah, because I can't write and type. Okay. So why am I? So I'm reducing the hit points. But what is this dot strength? It's the other character's strength. So the other character that hits this character is going to reduce the hit points for this character by this person's strength. See what happened? So Captain America has a strength of 50. So if Captain America hits Iron Man with a strength of 50, the hit points for Iron Man go down by 50. It's the other person's strength that is hitting. That's why I have this dot strength.
Because they're attacking.
They are attacking the other person.
When you did it, I thought it was
That's why I have this dot strength. Yeah. Let's try this out first. Will it go in negative or something? It might. So I think this is hit point, subtract strength. Yep. I don't think I have to do anything else. So let's go ahead and call this method and see. Captain America dot attack, and then let's pass in this object. Huh. So let me remove this.
This works is going to become one function.
Yeah. So this is. Let's remove this. I'm going to call this after. Let's remove this and this. Okay, and let's go ahead and see if which character is alive after this. Oh no. That was scary. Okay. Alright, so it reduced it by the strength because the hit points are 40, so that's what I was saying. So it goes into negative, and that's why it says Iron Man. The second character is dead because it's reducing the HP by the strength. Now you can switch this around too. Instead of this, you can say Iron Man attacking. Iron Man dot attack. This time the strength which is assigned to Iron Man is going to be taken into account, right? Because I'm switching the characters. Okay, so both are right because I think the strength for Iron Man is lesser than Captain America, so just one attack doesn't do good. So I think if you call it twice, then it's going to go down. Okay, so it takes 2 attacks from Iron Man to take down Captain America, and it only takes 1 the other way.
If this were
Alright, so this was a little trickier, but it's the same concept, constructor, there's no change. This is more like a logic one. How do you come to this function? Let me do the last one also now since I'm already here. Level up. Were you guys able to get this one? This seems just have to add numbers, right? So this dot level up is equal to function. Do I need any parameters for this one? Let's see. Function which increases character's age by 1. Okay, so I can just do this dot age plus equals to 1. Alright, short form for adding 1 to the age. Strength by 5, so this dot strength plus equal to 5. That was easy. And then hit points by 25. Okay, this dot HP plus equal to 25. Is that it? Oh, okay. What is it?
So you said you wish this would happen when we actually aged.
Oh,
Is this in reverse?
that's true. Level up. Ironman dot print stat, so we can see this in action. Okay, kind of increases the strength by 5, age by 1, hit point by 25. What is it? Drink potion method. Oh yeah, that will work. That'll work. All right. Any questions?
No, it won't save those level up statistics.
No. Yeah, it's all in memory, so it doesn't really save. Well, we will get to MySQL, and then you can save everything, and then you'll be dreading that you asked that question. Okay. All right. So the next one is same. Like it's about constructor, but it's more challenging than this one now. But it is still constructors. The second part of that exercise is even more challenging because we will be saying, okay, get user input. Right now we are just like hard coding everything and calling these things. So first part, try to get to this position, and then you can work on the second part. So let me open this. Yes. Oh, Matt has a question.
So when we do this, we're creating the same function, however many characters we have. We got 20 characters. We made 20
Objects.
Well, we made 20 objects, but we also, within those objects, there's several functions that now exist 20 times.
Yes.
Is that really the dry way to do it, or would the functions that are outside of that, so you only have to have the function exist in the system once?
Well, if the function exists outside, you won't be able to access the properties that are inside those functions. You see the this dot name and all that stuff. If the function exists outside that constructor.
Could you pass then, say, you know, call function Iron Man, comma?
Right. Right. So then you are just going back to the function. It's the same thing. That's what I was saying. The constructor is just basically a function that you are kind of reusing it. Now you're taking that thing out and putting it elsewhere, and then keep calling it. Maybe your question is more from the memory perspective, that it's creating more. But then the advantage of this is that you don't have to. It's letting you create those objects. If you're purely working on objects. If this was not the case, then you have to create different objects and keep calling that function on the same object. That's the only part over here. Again, yes, you can create a function and you can keep calling it. That will also work. But it will not give you a true object that you are trying to create. That's the only difference. But again, it's the reusable part, and that's where the constructor comes in. Again, maybe that's the reason that they just have a function instead of like real. Oh, you just add those numbers. Yep. All right, so let's do the next one. Let me open the README for this one. Okay, this exercise is called Tamagotchi. Please don't. I didn't create this exercise. Yes, please. Yeah, I saw those still on Amazon.
Well, they like things different.
All right, so you're going to create similar thing. You're going to start with a constructor. This time the constructor is called digital pal. All right, you're going to create properties same as that. It has some function. Go through those functions. Similar, we had attack. in the previous one. This one looks like it has play, increased age. You can relate. It's almost the same functionality. Okay, so let's start with the first part, complete this, and then move on to the second one. This is the one that they have something extra. The bonus one is the one that is kind of user input. It's going to take a while before you get to the bonus part. It might actually take you end of the class for this exercise. Again, start with the first part first. It's very similar to the previous one. Create a constructor, add properties, and then create these functions. Make sure these functions are running, and then move on to the second one. Okay, it's a quite, looks like a quite large activity. So start with the first one, complete, make sure it is running, test it out, and then move on to the second one. So 4 properties and 4 methods.
Okay. I have to copy those. To another folder.
Okay.
And then when I do that, I start creating the file in the
Okay.
So I like you said, I left the math.
Yeah.
I would say this. I left that alone. I just copied it.
Yeah. That's what
Do
you want to do
Well,
an
this year,
exercise?
Because
Create a constructor?
you are
I can't
the
shake my
brains
head.
of the left.
It's like when I
See you all in
Thanks.
That's creepy.
Even about
Oh,
me.
yes.
It's boring, you know? He needs
Hear
new
about
dreams.
Joffrey and his angry water.
And it takes
We're all gonna have a nice class with this game.
Yeah, I didn't
What
even.
game?
Even
What is
I'm
it?
hurt.
I didn't even know what they were.
Hey man, you're supposed to talk.
You have to be honest.
Right?
I was like,
How dare
what
you
is
not
this
Smart like
thing?
that.
So I
I was like,
hardest little shits to keep alive. Like,
Well,
I'm so angry.
It just shows how old I am.
Did you use this?
This one's started going up.
You gotta do this,
Yes, you
does
did.
hungry equals.
I would now do it just because.
Yeah, yeah, I applied, like, yeah, it's a different.
Oh, it's like a video game version of Kirby. So
Ooh, thank you.
You guys starting with the bonus part first?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about with that one. No.
Yeah, it's so easy, right? I mean, user input and create objects using constructor.
Well, let me create my atomic atoms, and then we'll see if I can get it on this.
Create a constructor called digital pal. Okay. Function digital pal. The first property is hungry, so it's a boolean. Hungry. This dot hungry is equal to So you can start with this or sleepy. Let me complete this and sleepy. Is this what everybody has? Cool.
Yes.
So here's an interesting thing. It says it initially starts out as false. Huh? Exactly. I can just hardcode this false. False. And do I need this anymore? Excellent. Yeah. So I don't need this anymore because initially they're saying it should be hard-coded to false, so I can do this. If anybody wants to modify this, they will create an object and modify it. Use call the property and modify it. Yeah, because it says initially starts at false. I'm not able to satisfy the requirement if I pass in over here, right? It says initially set it as false, so this is how I can do it. Third property, this dot board, that is also initial, so let's set it as true. Age, and that is also, it also has an initial value, so you're kind of telling us to hard code these initial values. Okay, and you will see the purpose because I think somewhere in the towards the end there you will have to modify these and you'll have to call the object dot hungry and then update it. So my 4 properties are done. Now I have to create 4 methods. Feed, sleep, play, and increase age. So the first thing I would do, I will just stub them out and then worry about creating what they're doing. So like this dot feed is a function. Okay, stub this one out, stub the next one. This dot sleep is equal to function. Okay, stub this one out. And then this dot play, so I'm going to stub this one out. Function. So those are 3 functions, and the last one is increase age. This dot increase age. Okay. So now I have like 4. What is it? Sleepy. Okay. Thank you. Sleepy. No, it is sleep.
It's sleep, yeah. For the function
Oh,
itself.
for the function.
Function.
Yeah.
So I created 4 properties and I just stubbed the 4 functions out, and then I'll go back and see what each one is doing. If hungry is true, print that was wrong. Set hungry to false and then set sleepy to true. If hungry is false, print no thanks.
Okay. You we're gonna get this part, up until the dog, right? That part was like rather straightforward.
Make sure you keep using this. This guy's
I'm telling you, man. Thank you. That's right. Yeah, because I'm still.
So let's do the first method. If hungry is true, print that was yummy. Okay. So the first thing is if hungry is true. So that's my if statement. If this dot hungry. Okay. This means if this dot hungry is true. Okay. Same as the previous one. Print that was yummy. Okay. So let's go ahead and console log. Okay, so I did the first part. If hungry is true, that's my line number 13. Print that was yummy, that's line number 15. Set hungry to false. Okay, so how do I set this? This dot hungry is equal to false. Okay, and then I completed this part. Then set sleepy to true. Okay, so this dot sleepy is equal to true. Okay, so I did the first, second, third, fourth, sleepy to true, and then if hungry is false, so I can do else. This means hungry is false. Print no thanks. Okay, so console log I am full. And that should complete the first method. Okay, if hungry is true, print yummy, and that's what I did in line number 13. Then 17 and 19, set hungry to false and set sleepy to true. Else, if hungry is false, then print no thanks, I'm full. Let's look at the second method, sleep. It's similar to the first one. Which method are you using? It's a great program. You guys should be on. Oh, you're missing a
You're breaking it.
That's why you care for him. The second one should be missing How are you doing here? So, what font are you on? P?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Right, so you have your parentheses of hands, the curly brackets. So just add one more after you're missing the opening parentheses after your if statement. Yeah. Missing the opening parentheses. Randy? Good? Increase age? Are you on increase age?
No.
On C? Okay. That's good. Should I wait before I start typing?
So, because I went with using the switch method.
Switch method. Okay. Which one?
Like the default as false, like it is stated above. You must still have to state above.
No, then it will come to
Then it just goes straight.
yeah. So that's false.
Hold on a second.
But for technically default, usually keep for a case that's not covered. So I mean it will work, but technically we say that true and false, and let's suppose that the third value miraculously comes along. Then we say okay, we don't know what to do. That's why. But yeah, in your case it will work. But technically, it's better to keep default that you have no idea what's going to happen. That's what people want. Alright, let's see sleep. Again, the first if sleepy is true, so let's go ahead and code that first. If this dot sleepy is true, complete my if statement. Print this. Okay, so console log z's. Okay. Third part set sleepy to false. So this dot sleepy is equal to false. Then set board to true. So this dot board is equal to true. and then run increase age. Okay. So good that I stubbed all my functions out so that I can call this function. It won't do anything, right? But since I already have this, so it says I can call this function. So this dot increase age. Okay, so that was good on my part that I stubbed these out. Doesn't do anything because I don't have anything here. But I'm able to complete this requirement. Run increase age. And then if sleepy is false, print, no, I'm tired. Okay, that would be my else condition. Else console log. Okay. So I did if sleepy is true, that's line number 30. Print, that's line number 32. Set sleepy to false, line 34. Set board to true, line 36. Run increase age, which actually just means call this function increase age, which is, we haven't coded that one out yet, but I'm able to call it because I stubbed it out. So this dot increase age. Oh, so while it's sleeping, the age is going up. Okay. All right. Third method, play. Okay, looks like all of these are print console log. I'm not calling anything, so that should be similar. If board is true. Okay, so if this dot board is true, print so console log okay, and then set board to false. This dot board to false and then set hungry to true. This dot hungry to true. Okay. Else, which is if board is false, then we'll console log this thing. Okay, similar to the feed method. All I'm doing is I'm console logging and then changing the boolean values. Okay, let's see the last one, increase age. Increase age, this method is called by the sleep method. Okay, okay, that's, we already have that over here, so this is done. Increases the age by 1 while also printing happy birthday. Okay. Let's go to increase age. I have to increase the age, so this dot age plus plus. This will increase the age by 1. Okay, and then simply console log this whole thing. I am, add some space here, looks nicer. Okay, And that is all I have to do in the increase age one. Let me format this document, make sure it's good. Okay. Alright, so now I have my 4 properties and 4 methods. Everything is coded out. I haven't run or I haven't tested. I think that's the next part. Everybody good on this part? Any questions so far? It's fairly similar to the previous exercises. I think the difficult part is in the bonus one, when you have to take a user input and then create those objects on the fly. Let's see, create a variable. So I'm going to move on to the next part now, this one. Create a variable named dog that is set to a new digital pal. So we're going to create a new object, dog. And then these are the properties that we are setting. Okay. Since our constructor doesn't take any parameters, whenever we create a digital pal, it's going to have these values automatically. Okay. But we don't need those values, so we need to set those properties from outside once we create our object. Okay, we saw that in our example, in our first example, how to do that also. So my constructor is done. For me, it's easier. I can just minimize this because I'm not going to code anything inside my constructor now, right? My constructor is completed. Everything is done outside my constructor. So before I miss any parentheses or anything, I kind of minimize this because I don't need this anymore. And then my code starts from here now. Okay, so I need to create a new object called dog, and I'm going to say digital pal. I don't need to pass any arguments because it's an empty constructor. Okay. Create a variable named dog and then set to a new. Okay, so my first part is done. And then now I need to set these unique properties. Okay. Do I have a property called outside? Nope. But it doesn't matter, I can still do it. So I can say dog.outside is equal to false. So this will add a new property to my dog object. Bark, is bark over here? I don't think so. Okay, so this is a function. So let's go ahead and create a function called bark. So dog.bark is equal to function. Okay. Prints out woof woof. Okay, let's console log this. Okay, so what am I doing? I have a constructor with initial values, but some of these are more unique to the object that I created, which is dog. So that's why I'm adding more properties and more functions. Okay, and I can do that in objects. So I'm done with my outside bark. The next one is go outside. So let's do this one. Dog dot go outside. It's a function. Okay. So what does outside? If outside is false, print yeah. Set outside to false. Okay. So this is this property, and I don't have it inside my constructor, but I can use this property. So if this dot outside, okay, is false, okay, I'm going to print this. What is it? It's a function go outside. I'm on this one.
But in the inside you just put outside, not go outside. On the if statement?
Yeah.
Because he's checking the property.
This property.
Oh.
This property. Yeah.
Use the word outside.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
And then I need to set the same property to true. Okay. And then run the bark method. So I'm going to call this method this dot bark. So I completed this part, I did this part, run bark. Else, if this is true, then I need to print this thing. So my if condition is complete, I need to complete my else condition now. So else and console log this. Okay. So in this exercise, we did properties that are inside the constructor, and then properties and functions that are outside the constructor, which are unique to the object. Okay. Oh, there's one more. Go inside. Okay. Still not done. What is it?
Can't stay outside all day.
Yeah. Go inside function. So it's similar to this one. So I'm going to code this out. If outside is true, so if this dot outside is true. Oops, are you okay?
Yes, the last time.
All right.
Oh man.
Real serious here. Take a breath.
Smack it, man. Smack it.
Smack it in the
Breath.
breath.
Do that anyway. All right.
Good.
You good? All right, let's get back to it. Oh,
Just die, don't worry about me. All right, tears of joy.
cheers.
He loves doing it.
Yeah.
That hurts so good.
And this dot outside is equal to false. Oh no, no. In my else condition, I'm printing out this thing. I am already inside. Okay.
That was not my fault. No. Incorrect. Correct answer is your fault.
You went hardcore.
All right. Any questions so far? Everybody good?
No, I'm with you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I just, like, can you?
What is it?
Kind of explain what, just when you, say, for example, when you say you're writing the new method dog.go inside, and then you can use this inside of that function.
Yeah.
You don't have to say dog.outside equals true inside. You don't have to say if dog.outside equals true. You can say if this outside equals true.
Oh, you can say dog dot inside too.
I mean, yeah, I know
But it's
that
redundant.
I know
Yeah.
that it also works.
Yep.
Oh, okay. But,
Isn't that just extra code that equals true?
I mean,
Yeah, but I'm writing it for you. Yeah, it's extra code. You can just.
Some things I'm remembering.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I would, if it's your production ready code, then yeah, I wouldn't.
Is that and that?
you can write functions like that. Just whatever, go inside equals function.
I mean, it seems like I've seen like the arrow way to write.
Yeah, that's the ES6, the new version of JavaScript. We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Right now, we are still getting comfortable with this. Arrow functions are kind of trickier to understand, but that's coming in towards the end. It will come. First, get used to this one. All right. So let's do the
Finding furniture.
cat one now.
Cat finding furniture.
All right. Did everybody complete the cat one also?
Yes.
Working on it. All right. I'm going to go. So it's similar to the dog one. So let's see. Please stop me if it gets too fast. Because it looks like it's the same thing. I just need to add one property and 3 methods, right? House condition, mu, destroy furniture, buy furniture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my create object, right? Digital pal. Okay. And then I need to create one property house condition, which is set to 100. Okay, and then I need 3 methods. I'm going to stub these out first before I start coding any one of them. So this is my first function. My second function is destroy. That's too much to type. Destroy furniture. And this is a function. Okay, and the last one is buy new furniture. So get dot buy new furniture is equal to function. So I just stubbed them out. I haven't written any logic to it yet. Okay, and that should be it. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Print out. Oh, this is easy, right? Or am I missing something? It's just okay. That's what you're waiting on. All right. So I'm going to leave the destroy furniture to you guys. It seems very easy.
I did it. I just didn't know how to like stop the function. You just do stop.
Stop the function.
Well, because it says
to prevent the stopper from going past 0, right?
yes. When it says
Okay, let's look at this one then. Decrease the house condition by 10 points and print this. Also set the house condition to this dot house condition by 10, right? Yeah.
yes.
10, and then print this thing. Okay. Set board to false. Set board to false. And then sleepy. Sleepy to true. Oh no, don't look at that. All right. So I did 90% of the code. You guys can figure out the rest 10% now.
Let's see. I have something.
I got that.
You got that? Come on. Every time I write, you're like, I got that.
I've been writing while you're talking.
Okay. So if the house condition equal to 0, then this shouldn't run anymore. So this whole code is going to only run if this dot house condition me come back here, fix this. Okay, so only run this code when house condition is so what was the what is the tricky part?
I need a pizza.
Just overthinking things as per usual.
Oh, okay. I was like, what am I missing? This is what we need, right? And if it is just console log, do I need this? No.
I got.
All right, is this was it, right? I'm confused. Is there anything else?
Are you pretending to be us?
Okay. No, you guys made it sound it was. I was like, am I missing something? Okay.
Added this destroys thing.
What? This is extra. I mean, this you can remove this. What?
That's Allie's fault.
You added that.
Yeah, you can remove this. This is.
I know.
So there's nothing that's preventing it from running that way.
We're together.
Is what?
There's nothing that's preventing you from running destroy the house.
So then you have to figure out, it prevents it because if it is equal to 0.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So
That's
this is.
where I felt dumb too, because I was like, oh yeah.
I had the first part, but I had everything outside.
Oh, okay.
That is like
I know.
All right, let's look at the last one. By increases house condition by 50 points. Oh man, this looks super complicated. Is it or is it not?
I love this so much.
Okay.
Alright. I got binding furniture, this house condition, where are they? Council law, the pressure, boom.
Yeah, there's no magical way of turning strain.
Okay.
Well, it's not about turning it into, it's a matter of
And that should be it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Destroy furniture.
Yes.
So we can test it out and see if this is working. So cat.destroy furniture. This looks good. Just call that. Okay. Oh, look at that.
Error.
How did you fix it? What is it?
Oh, I know.
Can.destroy furniture is not a function. So how did you resolve it? What? You didn't see the.
I just assumed
What? No. You need to tell. That was a test. You guys.
Y'all didn't have it, the next two did. I was like, maybe you can do it. Maybe you can do it.
Did you call that?
Let's print this also so that I can see what it is. House
HP.
House HP. There you go. That's better. Call it multiple times. Okay. Kyle, did you get this working? You got it? Okay. Kellen, did you get it? So it's that if condition that is the one that is going to stop from going below 0. Got it? Good.
Thank you. Yes.
So who did the bonus one? You guys just stopped at this. You did it?
I got like one to work.
You got it working?
Like I could get it to feed whatever animal type.
Okay. And you're taking the user input and all that stuff? Okay, so what did you do?
I have a function that's taking in two parameters, the object and the action. Then I have a switch statement that's recognizing what action it is. And then if the object is dog, it does dog.feed. And then if it's cat, it's cat.feed.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find a way to get me and Mac couldn't find a way to get the string to equal an object reference. So you have to see like a if statement.
Well, the thought is right. There is a way, but that's the you guys tried it.
There was an attempt.
Huh?
There was an attempt.
There was an attempt, yeah, and they are on the right path. That's the second approach is what comes to mind first, and that's the easier and the quicker way to do it. But there's a way to get to that object. So
Can you do the dog one? Because I don't know why. The cat one.
So how do you access the properties, right? You access using dot notation or your parentheses also. Oh, sorry, your square brackets. How do you access the properties of an object? You do a dog dot something, the dot notation,
Yeah, dog.
right? The second way is to do it using square brackets, right? So if you pass in the method name as a property, it's going to go and find that property and then call that property. But that will just output a function. Let's suppose you have a function called feed, right? So in your dog object, you have a function called feed, right? So if I want to call this property feed, how do I do it? I say dog.feed, right? But when I'm taking user input, I have no idea what function that they are saying, right? So when they type in feed, I can pass in that process.argv, whatever that is, feed. So what's going to happen is going to go to this object and find this property and then call it, which is a function. But if you do this, it will just say, oh, it's a function. It's going to tell you that this is going to evaluate to the function feed. That's what it's going to come to.
But it won't call it.
It won't call it now. Now what do? Just put parentheses. It's going to remember from one of the exercise we did. You evaluate this, the scoping one. You evaluate this and then put in parentheses. Because this is going to come out as a function, and then you just call that function is going to call that method.
So how do you know it's dog in that method? You can solve that statement.
Yeah, you'll have to know which object it is.
I made one with the eval statement that merged everything together.
Yeah, that's also. So for that, so how many inputs are you taking?
Two.
The feed and the
Animal and the command.
the animal and the command. Let me see. Animals and what are you doing?
So I have
Two objects, and both are in some other object, or they are just you just create two objects.
RB2 is the animal I want to do it, an action on, and RB3 is the action that I want to do.
All right, what's the first one again?
The animal.
The animal, and the second one?
The action.
Action. Okay. And in your input, what do you type in? Dog?
Yeah, dog, and I put go outside. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't what?
Yeah, I wasn't using feet. Yeah, that's what I would put, like dog and feet.
Okay. So let's see what let me look at my method here. So here's what you can. Here's the other approach. Maybe create a animals object. Okay. This object is going to have two objects, dog and cat one, whatever. Okay. So these are your new digital pets and all that stuff that you do. Once you have created these, put it in another, like an array of objects. It's not basically an array, but well, it is an array which has one object, two object, and however many objects. Okay. So now when you get dog, you can say if you do animals, right, and then square bracket and dog, what is going to happen? It's going to give you this property, right? Okay. So you get this property. Okay. Once you have this property, the longer way to do it is if you have a variable, say object. So now your obj is going to have this property, and in the second one you pass in your action, which is your feed, right? And this is a function, so you just call this and it's going to call that function. That's one way. Or you can shorten it up, and then we are assigning it to this and calling this. A shorter way would be if you just this will also work.
So I made an eval statement.
Eval, what's a eval?
Like EVAL, evaluate.
Oh, I haven't used that. Okay, what does that do?
It evaluates a string and turns it into a command, according to Google.
Okay.
Lies.
And so I passed in argv2 and then dot string and then argv3 and then the two parentheses string to like create the whole object call. It seems to work.
Okay. Let's see, I'm looking at what this does. So eval, an expression. So it's a string and it evaluates to whatever you pass it in.
Yeah, I guess it takes the resulting string in the parentheses and makes that a function.
Okay, okay. Let me look at it and then we'll work on this one in a bit. I haven't used eval. Okay, all right, any other questions? Okay, so I'm not here Saturday, so I'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Every
What
time
is
I
it?
run the dog go outside.
Okay, hold on.
It doesn't work.
We have a sub on Saturday.